The ancient beacon had been floating in the darkness of space for 60,000 years, and it had never stopped screaming its warning. Navigator Solis was the first to detect it. His instruments picked up the signal 3 hours before the Dominion fleet reached the small blue planet called Earth. At first, he thought it was debris, perhaps wreckage from some forgotten war, but then his translation software began decoding the message, and his blood turned cold. Class 12 Death World, the beacon repeated in 12,000 different languages. Atmospheric entry forbidden, native species exhibits extreme adaptation, do not engage, do not land, do not provoke, turn back. Solis brought the message to High Admiral Rivon immediately. Rivon stood in the command center of the flagship Eternal Conquest, watching Earth rotate slowly on the main viewscreen. It looked peaceful. Blue oceans covered most of the surface. Green and brown landmasses dotted the sphere, white clouds drifted lazily across the atmosphere. To Rivon, it looked like every other primitive world the Dominion had conquered. A warning beacon, Rivon said, his voice filled with contempt. You interrupt my invasion planning for a warning beacon, Admiral. The beacon is older than our empire, Solis said carefully. Whoever built it wanted to keep everyone away from this planet. Perhaps we should investigate before we what? Rivon cut him off. Before we claim another world for the Dominion. Before we add another species to our collection of servants. He laughed. I have conquered 47 worlds, Navigator. I have broken species that wielded weapons we could barely understand, and you want me to fear a planet of primitives who still burn fossil fuels. Solis tried again. The beacon calls it a Class 12 Death World. I have never seen that classification before. Our databases show nothing above Class 7. Then the classification is meaningless, Rivon replied, created by cowards who wanted to keep this world for themselves. He turned to his communications officer. Contact Counselor Dreven on Sereth Prime. Tell him we have arrived and will begin landing operations within 6 hours. The response came faster than expected. Counselor Dreven's face appeared on the viewscreen within minutes. He was old, older than anyone Solis had ever seen, and his eyes held a fear that seemed strange on someone of his rank. Rivon, you must not proceed, Dreven said without greeting. I have accessed the restricted archives. There are records, fragments really, from empires that existed before ours. They speak of forbidden worlds, planets that were marked as untouchable for reasons we no longer remember. Superstition, Rivon said. No, Dreven insisted. Evidence. Every empire that attempted to claim Earth disappeared, not defeated, not retreated, disappeared. Their final transmissions speak of horrors we cannot understand, the planet itself turning against them. The air becoming poison, the creatures. Enough, Rivon raised his hand. I will not be frightened by ghost stories, Counselor. The Dominion has ruled for 12,000 years, we have crushed every enemy we have faced. One primitive planet will not change that. Dreven leaned closer to his screen. Rivon, listen to me carefully. The records say that the natives of Earth are persistence predators. Do you understand what that means? They evolved to hunt by chasing their prey until it dies of exhaustion. They do not stop, they do not rest, they simply keep coming until their target cannot run anymore. Rivon smiled. Then they will make excellent soldiers once we have conquered them. End transmission. The screen went dark. Solis stood in silence, his mind racing. He pulled up the atmospheric data on his personal console. The readings made no sense. Oxygen levels at 21%, on Sereth Prime. Anything above 12% was considered toxic, gravity at nearly double what Dominion species could comfortably handle, temperature variations that swung from freezing to boiling depending on location and season. Admiral, Solis said quietly, the atmospheric data suggests this planet is genuinely hostile to our biology. Perhaps we should send probes first, or, we send soldiers, Rivon said firmly. 12 dropships, 3,000 of our finest warriors. They will secure a landing zone. And then we will descend in comfort to accept the human surrender. Solis wanted to argue. He wanted to show Rivon the beacon's message again, to make him understand that 60,000 years of warnings meant something, but he knew it would be pointless. Rivon had never lost. He could not imagine a universe where he might. 6 hours later, the dropships launched. Solis watched them descend toward the blue planet, their hulls glowing as they entered the atmosphere. They looked like falling stars, bright and beautiful against the darkness of space. He wondered if any of them would return. The beacon continued its endless transmission in the background, its warning echoing across the void. it had screamed into the darkness for 60,000 years, and the Dominion had ignored it. They were not the first, Solis feared they would not be the last, but deep down, in a place he did not want to examine too closely, he suspected that this time, the warning might finally be proven right. The first dropship vanished into the clouds below, and somewhere on Earth, something ancient and patient began to wake. The first thing Strike Commander Hallis noticed when the dropship doors opened was the weight. It pressed down on him like an invisible hand, pushing against his chest, his shoulders, his legs. Every step felt like wading through thick mud. His soldiers stumbled as they tried to disembark, their legs buckling under the strain of a gravity nearly twice what they had evolved to handle. "Commander," one of his officers gasped. "I cannot breathe properly." Hallis checked his own breathing. The air was thick, rich, almost sweet. It filled his lungs with a burning sensation that made him want to cough. His species had evolved on a world with 11% oxygen. Earth's atmosphere contained nearly twice that amount. They were being slowly poisoned by the very air around them. "Seal your helmets," Hallis ordered. "Switch to filtered air supplies." The soldiers complied, but Hallis could see the fear in their eyes. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had faced enemies with superior technology, with terrifying weapons, with armies that outnumbered them 10 to 1, but they had never faced a planet that tried to kill them simply by existing. They had landed in a dense jungle. Biotech analyst Mirren called it the Amazon Basin. The plants around them were impossibly green, impossibly tall, impossibly alive. Everything moved, leaves rustled without wind, vines seemed to reach toward them. The ground itself felt soft and hungry beneath their feet. "The readings are extraordinary," Mirren said, her voice shaking. "There are more microbial life forms in a single handful of this soil than exist on our entire homeworld. The air is filled with spores, pollen, bacteria. Everything here is designed to invade, to consume, to spread." A soldier screamed. Hallis spun around to see one of his men slapping at his arm. A small flying creature had landed on him, a tiny thing with transparent wings and a needle-like mouth. It was nothing, it was insignificant, it was smaller than his smallest finger, but the soldier's arm was already swelling. "What is happening to him?" another soldier demanded. Mirren scanned the creature as it flew away. It injected some kind of saliva into his bloodstream. "There appear to be proteins our immune system cannot recognize. His body is reacting as if." The soldier collapsed. Within minutes, he was dead, killed by an insect. Hallis looked at his troops. 3,000 elite soldiers, veterans of campaigns across the galaxy. They stood in the green hell of Earth's jungle, struggling to breathe, struggling to stand, struggling to survive, and they had not yet seen a single human. "Commander," Pilot Reeve called from the dropship, "I am receiving reports from the other landing zones. Zones 3 and 7 have gone silent. Zone 5 is reporting mass casualties from something called thermal shock. Zone 9, a crack of thunder interrupted him. Hallis looked up. The sky had darkened while they stood there. Clouds had gathered with impossible speed, and now, flashes of light streaked across the heavens, followed by sounds loud enough to shake his bones. "What is that?" a soldier whispered. "Electrical discharge," Mirren said. "The atmosphere here generates massive static charges that release as." A bolt of lightning struck the nearest dropship. The explosion threw Hallis to the ground. His ears rang, his vision blurred. When he looked up, the dropship was burning, its metal hull torn open like paper, and then the rain came. It fell in sheets so thick that Hallis could barely see. The water struck his armor like countless tiny fists. It filled the ground around them, turning solid earth into rivers of mud. Soldiers slipped and fell, their heavy armor dragging them down into the mire. Through the rain, Hallis saw movement. Figures emerged from the jungle. They walked upright, with 2 arms and 2 legs, just like the intelligence reports had described. But they moved through the storm as if it was nothing. The gravity did not slow them, the rain did not blind them, the lightning did not frighten them. They were humans. A group of them approached the surviving soldiers. They wore simple clothing, nothing that could be called armor. They carried no visible weapons. They looked at the Dominion soldiers with something that might have been curiosity. One of them, a small one, perhaps a child, walked up to a fallen Dominion rifle. It was a weapon designed for soldiers twice her size, built from alloys meant to withstand tremendous force. She picked it up with one hand. She held it like it weighed nothing. Hallis understood then what Counselor Dreven had tried to tell them. The humans were not victims waiting to be conquered. They were survivors. they had evolved on this world of poison air and crushing gravity and burning lightning. They had been forged in a furnace that would kill any other species in the galaxy. Earth was not their prison. It was their training ground, and now, 3,000 Dominion soldiers were trapped in that same training ground, suffocating in air too rich to breathe, crushed by gravity too strong to fight, surrounded by predators they had never evolved to face. Hallis reached for his communication device. "Admiral Revon," he gasped, "the planet itself is a weapon. We need immediate." Another lightning bolt struck, the transmission ended, and in orbit above, the Dominion fleet waited for a response that would never come. 72 hours after the invasion began, the jungle had already started eating the dropships. Vines crawled across the metal hulls, moss grew in the cracks, fungi spread across the surfaces like slow-moving fire. In 3 days, Earth was reclaiming what the Dominion had brought, breaking it down, absorbing it, making it part of the endless green. High Admiral Revon stared at the satellite images in disbelief. Of the 3,000 soldiers he had sent to the surface, fewer than 200 remained alive. Most had died from the environment, oxygen poisoning, gravitational stress, allergic reactions to insect bites, bacterial infections from drinking the water, heat stroke in the tropical zones, hypothermia in the northern regions. The humans had barely done anything, they had simply watched. On the surface, General Adaora Obi stood before a gathering of military leaders from every nation on Earth. She was tall, her gray hair cut short, her eyes sharp with decades of experience. She had been chosen to lead humanity's unified response, and she intended to make the aliens regret ever learning that Earth existed. "They have made a critical error," she told the assembly. "They assumed that because we lack their technology, we are weak. They did not understand that our technology is not our strength. Our strength is that we survive. We survive everything: ice ages, plagues, famines, predators, each other. This planet has been trying to kill us for 4 million years, and we are still here." She activated a display showing the alien physiology that Dr. Pavel Volkov had compiled from captured specimens. "Their bones are hollow," she explained. "They evolved for low gravity. Our gravity is crushing their internal organs slowly. Their immune systems have no experience with microbes. They developed on a nearly sterile world. A common cold could kill them. Their eyes cannot see the full spectrum that we can. To them, our forests are a blur of gray and yellow. They cannot see the green." A colonel raised his hand. "What about their second wave? Reports say they are landing in the Sahara with environmental suits." Obi smiled. "They chose the desert because they think it is empty. They think nothing lives there. They believe that sand and rock will be safer than jungle." She pulled up an image of the Sahara. "They do not know that the Sahara has temperature swings of 50 degrees in a single day. They do not know that sandstorms can strip flesh from bone. They do not know that beneath those sands, there are creatures that have evolved to hunt in conditions they cannot imagine." She paused. "And they do not know that we have special forces teams already moving into position." In the Sahara, 200 Dominion dropships had established a fortified base. The soldiers wore sealed environmental suits that filtered the toxic oxygen and regulated their body temperature. They had brought enough supplies to last months. They believed they had solved the problem of Earth. Commander Hallis, 7, the only survivor from the original landing, had been recovered and was being treated in the medical bay. His testimony had spread through the fleet like a virus. He spoke of plants that moved, of insects that killed with a single bite, of lightning that fell from the sky like weapons fire. He spoke of humans who walked through storms without fear, who picked up weapons designed for soldiers and held them like toys. The second wave soldiers told themselves that Hallis, 7, was exaggerating. The jungle had been a mistake. The desert would be different. For the first day, it seemed they were right. The desert was quiet, the sand was still, nothing attacked them. The soldiers began to relax. On the second day, the temperature rose. At noon, the heat inside the environmental suits reached critical levels. Cooling systems began to fail. Soldiers stripped off their helmets, gasping for air. Forgetting that the oxygen would burn their lungs, medics scrambled to treat heat casualties. Water supplies ran low. Then the sun set, the temperature dropped 40 degrees in 3 hours. Soldiers who had been overheating began to freeze. The environmental suits could not adapt fast enough. Joints locked up, visors fogged, fingers went numb, and in the darkness, something began to move. The human special forces had been following the alien base for hours. They moved across the sand in silence. Their bodies adapted to the temperature swings that killed the invaders. They did not carry energy weapons or advanced technology, they carried knives and rifles and the patience of hunters who had tracked prey across deserts for thousands of generations. Colonel Diego Reyes led the assault team. He watched the alien base through night vision goggles, noting the guards who stumbled in the cold, the searchlights that flickered as power systems struggled. They think they are the predators, he whispered to his team. They have never been prey before. He raised his hand. Show them what it feels like. The attack came from every direction at once. In orbit, Rivon waited for the morning status report from the Sahara base. It never came. Instead, he received a single transmission, broadcast on every Dominion frequency. A human woman appeared on the screen. She spoke calmly, without emotion. You have invaded a Class 12 death world, she said. We did not place the warning beacons. Someone else did, long ago, but we understand now why they were there. We are not your victims. We are what your nightmares dream about. She leaned forward. Leave now, or stay forever. The transmission ended, and in the silence that followed, Rivon began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. The last Dominion soldier on Earth died 3 weeks after the invasion began. He had hidden in a sealed emergency pod for 9 days, drinking recycled water and eating nutrient paste. When human soldiers finally cut open the pod, they found him curled in a ball, whispering about demons that walked in sunlight and breathed fire. He died from a fungal infection that had entered through a crack in his suit. On the Dominion flagship, High Admiral Rivon faced the ruins of his career. 12,000 dead, 47 dropships lost, not a single human casualty confirmed. The greatest military disaster in Dominion history, and it had happened without the enemy firing a single advanced weapon. His hands trembled as he accessed the ship's weapons array. If we cannot conquer this world, he said to himself, we will burn it. The orbital bombardment system was designed to crack continents. It could melt cities into glass, turn oceans to steam, reduce civilizations to ash. Rivon selected 4 targets, the largest population centers his sensors could identify: Beijing, Lagos, Sao Paulo, Mumbai. Billions of humans would die in seconds. It was the only victory he could still claim. Admiral, Navigator Solis said quietly from his station. Counselor Kareth is attempting to contact you. The Dominion Council has ordered you to stand down. The Council is not here, Rivon replied. They did not watch our soldiers die from bee stings and thunderstorms. They did not see our empire humiliated by primitives who fight with knives and patience. He entered the firing sequence. This planet will serve as a warning to anyone who thinks they can resist the Dominion. The weapons array began to charge. On Earth, tech specialist Amara Diallo detected the energy buildup immediately. She had spent 2 weeks studying captured Dominion technology, learning its language, understanding its logic. She knew what an orbital bombardment signature looked like. They are going to fire, she reported to General Obi. For targets, major cities, estimated time to full charge, 15 minutes, Obi nodded. She had expected this. Empires that could not win through strength always tried to win through destruction. It was the final tantrum of the defeated. Are the payloads ready? She asked. Amara smiled. Ready and waiting. Across the globe, hidden silos opened. Modified missiles rose into the sky. Their trajectories aimed not at the Dominion ships, but at the empty space around them. These missiles carried no explosives. They were not designed to destroy, they were designed to deliver. Inside each warhead was a carefully curated sample of Earth, soil teeming with bacteria, containers of fungal spores, sealed vials of common viruses, even canisters filled with ordinary insects. Everything that had killed the Dominion soldiers on the surface, concentrated and weaponized. The irony, Amara said as she watched the missiles climb, is that none of this would hurt a human. These are things we live with every day. We breathe these spores, we drink water filled with these microbes. Our immune systems do not even notice them. The missiles approached the Dominion fleet. Rivon saw them coming and laughed. They think their primitive rockets can penetrate our shields. He did not order evasive action. He did not divert power to defenses. He simply watched the missiles approach. Confident in the superiority of Dominion technology, the shields stopped the missiles easily. The warheads burst harmlessly against the energy barriers, but shields were designed to stop energy and solid matter. They were not designed to stop microscopic organisms. Spores and bacteria passed through the barriers like water through a net. The ventilation systems, hungry for particles to filter, sucked them inside. Within an hour, the first crew members began coughing. Dr. Mirren, who had survived the jungle landing, recognized the symptoms immediately. It is an infection, she reported. Multiple infections. Our medical systems cannot identify the pathogens. There are hundreds of different types. Rivon felt his throat tighten, his eyes began to water, a headache formed behind his temples. He wanted to blame stress, wanted to blame exhaustion, but he knew the truth. He was sick, the entire fleet was sick. On every ship, Dominion soldiers and crew collapsed at their stations. They coughed and wheezed and burned with fevers. Their immune systems, which had never faced any serious challenge, were overwhelmed by common Earth germs. What a human child could fight off in 3 days was killing trained warriors in hours. The orbital bombardment array powered down automatically as the operators fell unconscious at their controls. Amara broadcast one final message to the dying fleet. You would not come down to us, she said, so we send our world up to you. You evolved on a gentle planet that gave you everything you needed. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every moment of every day. We carry armies inside our blood. We breathe poison that you cannot survive. We drink water that dissolves your organs. She paused. We did not become strong. We were born strong. You never had a chance. On the bridge of the eternal conquest, Rivon collapsed into his command chair, his vision blurred, his lungs burned. Around him, his officers lay motionless at their stations. He had wanted to burn the Earth. Instead, the Earth had burned him. His last thought, before the fever took his consciousness, was of the warning beacon they had ignored. Class 12 Death World. Now he understood what that meant. Now everyone would. Navigator Solis walked through corridors filled with the dead and the dying. He was one of the few who had not fallen to the Earth sickness. Perhaps his immune system was slightly stronger, perhaps he had simply been lucky. Either way, he moved through the flagship like a ghost, stepping over bodies, listening to the labored breathing of those who still clung to life. High Admiral Rivon lay in the medical bay, connected to machines that could not save him. His lungs were filled with fluid, his fever had burned through every medication they had. He was conscious, barely, when Solis approached. Why? Rivon whispered. Why did the ancients fear them so much? Solis had brought something to show him. It was a human text, recovered from the surface and translated by their computers. A simple book, meant for children, explaining how the human body worked. This is how they teach their young about their own biology, Solis said. He read from the pages. White blood cells hunt invaders in your bloodstream. They find foreign organisms and destroy them. You have billions of these defenders inside you, fighting battles you will never see. He looked at Rivon. They are taught from birth that their bodies are battlefields, that war happens inside them every moment of every day. They do not become warriors, Admiral. They are born as warriors. Their blood fights, their cells hunt. They are armies wrapped in skin. Rivon closed his eyes. A single tear ran down his cheek. We never had a chance, he breathed. No, Solis agreed. We did not. Rivon died an hour later. The Dominion Council received the news in stunned silence. High Counselor Kareth looked at the casualty reports and felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Total losses exceeded 14,000. The fleet was crippled, its crew too sick to operate the ships properly, and Earth remained untouched, its population unharmed, its cities intact. We must withdraw, Kareth announced, immediately. Completely, we will accept whatever terms the humans offer, and if they pursue us, a counselor asked. Kareth had no answer. General Obi delivered humanity's terms through a broadcast that reached every ship in the fleet and every receiver in the Dominion. She stood alone before the camera, her voice calm and measured. We are the children of Earth, she said. Our world created us through endless struggle. Ice tried to freeze us. We built fire. Disease tried to kill us. We built medicine. Predators tried to eat us. We ate them instead. Everything that could not destroy us made us stronger. She paused. You have seen what our planet does to those who are not born to it. Imagine what we can do if we choose to leave. Imagine human soldiers walking on your worlds, breathing your air, drinking your water. We would not struggle as you struggled here. We would thrive. Your gentle planets would feel like paradise to us. Your weak gravity would make us fast. Your thin atmospheres would make us light. She let the implications sink in. We do not want war. We did not ask for this invasion. Go home. Tell your people what you found here. Tell them that Earth is not a target. It is a warning. And if anyone ignores that warning again, we will not wait for them to land. the transmission ended. Within hours, the surviving Dominion ships began their retreat. They limped away from Sol System, carrying their sick and their dead, carrying stories that would become legends, stories of a blue planet where the air was poison and the gravity was crushing and the smallest creatures carried death in their bite. Solis remained behind. He did not board the evacuation transports. He did not report for treatment. Instead, he took a small shuttle and flew to the edge of the system, to where the ancient warning beacons still floated in the darkness. He had been studying them during the invasion. He had analyzed their construction, their materials, their technology, and he had discovered something that changed everything. The beacons were not built by some ancient alien civilization. The construction materials contained trace elements found only in one place in the known universe, Earth. Humans had built the warning beacons. Humans had traveled to the stars before, and for some reason, they had returned home. Solis stared at the beacon for a long time, thinking about what it meant. Had humanity reached the stars and found them boring? Had they encountered something that drove them back, or had they simply decided that nowhere else in the galaxy was dangerous enough to feel like home? He would never know, but he made a decision. Using the beacon's communication array, Solis recorded a new message. He added it to the 12,000 languages already broadcasting into the void. His voice joined the ancient chorus, warning any who might listen, "You are approaching Earth, Class 12 Death World, homeworld of humanity. They were not placed here to be conquered, they evolved here. They survived everything their world could throw at them. They carry armies in their blood and fire in their hearts. Do not enter, do not land, do not assume you are special, you are not. Every empire that has ignored this warning has fallen. Turn back, this is your only chance." The beacon accepted his message and began broadcasting it alongside the others. Solis turned his shuttle away from the Sol System. Behind him, Earth continued to spin, blue and beautiful and deadly. Somewhere on its surface, humans were going about their ordinary lives, unaware that they had just defeated an empire without really trying. They did not need to know. The galaxy would remember for them, and the warning beacons would keep screaming into the darkness, forever.